Welcome back to PHAE'S PLACE, a podcast where dreamers have the liberty to dream. I'm your host, Phaedra, and I am so excited that we have this time to dream together. We all enjoy television, but we rarely think about all the work that goes on behind the scenes. Today's guest has navigated the challenges of breaking into the competitive industry and still stays inspired and true to her vision. From creative production assistant on Pickler Ben to senior associate producer on the four-time Emmy Award-winning daytime talk series, The Kelly Clarkson Show, Kayla Young encourages us that our dreams are worth pursuing. Thanks for stopping by PHAE'S PLACE, Kayla. How you doing?
I am doing well, Phaedra. Thank you for having me. That was such a kind introduction. Wow.
Well, you deserve the best, my forever president. You know, I always say that. Now, let me explain that to my listening audience. Kayla was the president of BSA, which is Black Student Association at Belmont University. And during her tenure, I had the privilege of serving as chaplain. And yes, and I thank you so much for that opportunity. Those were the days, as the people say. Those were the days. I really enjoyed it. We took BSA so seriously.
Very seriously. None of us played about BSA.
I don't know if they still take it as serious, but it was a big
I
thing.
keep up with some of the things they're doing. It looks like they're still doing good work over there, which I'm pleased to see.
Great, that's great. I just want to draw the picture out for my audience that Belmont is a PWI. And when we attended Belmont, the Black population was not that large. So having the Black Student Association was like a huge thing. We recognized that students needed a place to feel safe where they didn't have to code switch, but we also had tough conversations and provided validation for the students that were there. Of course, Kayla held the standard up very high.
Well, we did it as a team, but you're exactly right that it was a needed, necessary space of community and. It was, I don't know, it was everything to me. Those of us who were like members, and then when you become an officer, we took it seriously, and so I was grateful for the opportunity to be a part of it.
I agree. We looked forward to those Friday meetings because the truth is, we as Black students were sometimes the first Black people that other students had the opportunity to see for real in real life. So with it being the first, sometimes things probably wasn't said to the best of the ability, but it was good to have BSA there where we could like vent, but also learn how to like not let that distract us and still get our degree. If you had to describe yourself using a TV show, what TV show would that be? It could be more than one.
Wow, that's a great question. Right now, I'm going to go ahead and say Abbott Elementary.
Okay.
I love that show because I love Quinta Brunson. Here's the two main reasons why. Number one, anytime I talk about that show, I will say, I love that show because I'm just like Janine, and a little bit I'm like Gregory, and I'm kind of like Miss Barbara Howard, but I'm also sort of like Jacob. Like, I find myself relating to like more than half the main cast, so it feels like every one of those characters is like a little different part of myself. That's one reason. The other reason why is because, and this will really be relevant to our conversation about kind of my entertainment industry career. Growing up, I loved like a person like Raven Simone, for example.
Yes.
Like the idea of being a young Black woman where you had your own show that you were kind of helping to create and you were the star. That was a very attractive idea to me. So much so that when I was all the way up until basically beginning high school, my original career goal was to be an actress. Actually, all through elementary and middle school, that's what I wanted to do. And but I felt like I wanted to be, much like a Tyler Perry, like a true auteur, a person who was writing and directing and executive producing the roles for themselves to play, and especially, as a Black person, that he was a major person I looked up to at that time. So Yet, when I got to high school and college, I shifted away the desire to act and moved more to just wanting to write, direct, produce. The acting piece fell away. So and it's funny that it didn't really happen when Insecure came out, because Issa Rae did a similar thing where she wrote a character very much like herself and played it. I think because I came to that show later, I wasn't watching it when it was on. But when Abbott came out, it was like maybe the second season, it kind of hit me. I said, wait a minute, Lord. This is what I said I wanted to do when I was a young person. I wanted to be a black girl who wrote a role for myself, that I was the star of the show. I played a character similar to me, just a young black girl at work trying to make her way. And that was a dream I used to have. And I don't think I really still want that now. Frankly, I respect the craft of acting too much. You're an actor, you know. I've not acted in who knows how long, so I would not try to wear that hat at this point in my life. But yeah, so that's the show that I would pick, is Abbott. I love that show.
Like you said, those are all kind of relatable characters, even though it's comedy. But we all know a Jacob, right? We know that well-meaning person that sometimes you're like, you can tone it down a little. But I love his character, and I think my favorite is Ava, because it's like, did she really just say that? But she makes sense, you know? You understand, like, why she does what she does. She's trying to help the school, and her ways are not always traditional, but they ultimately get the job done. So I think that's so great. And then just the idea of Quinta Brunson's, like, rise.
Yes.
It's so inspiring.
It is. I read her memoir. One of my friends gifted me her memoir a couple of years ago. She Memes Well. And she published that book at like 30 years old. And at the very end of the book, she's selling the idea of the show to ABC. So she had already published the memoir of her rise before any of this breakout of Abbott had happened. And so, yeah, that was encouraging to know her, the way her rise took place in her own words, and then to see the fruit of that and the success of the show has been really encouraging.
And to have it on ABC, like one of the major networks, and we see black people and black children in a positive light. We don't usually see that.
Yeah.
Even like with Blackish, dare I say. I think Blackish, they always was trying to appeal to the white audience, you know, trying to explain like, oh, we can't do this, we can't do that. Even with Scandal, I mean, the girl was after somebody's husband, you know, even though she was smart. You were like, girl, what is wrong with you? And even Empire, they were in drugs and street life. So to see Abbott Elementary.
Abbott is different, yeah.
So you kind of answered my other question, which was when you were 5 years old, what did you want to be?
Wow.
Was it,
Okay. That's what it was. I wanted to be an actress.
And I even find myself now using some personality traits of Raven Simone, you know, from That's So Raven.
She set the blueprint. She's the standard.
She really did. And I always say the years that we were born, because you're just 1 year older than me, we had wonderful television because there were so many black people on television doing positive things like One-on-One and the Parkers. I mean, the list just goes on. So I think we caught great television. You did receive your bachelor's from Belmont University. How did Belmont prepare you for your career?
For me, it's funny, I talk about this a lot because I'm at the school all the time and talking to prospective families and students and stuff all the time. For me, it had a lot to do with teaching, of course, kind of some of the technical things of sort of, I was in the film major, and so I ended up working in TV, so, but there's overlap, of course. So it taught you the technical things, but I think more than that, it taught you this kind of intangible professionalism and sort of the general attitude to have to approach doing work and being in the industry, period. I think that's the most valuable takeaway because when I would do internships, and even when I first moved out here to LA, which was basically 1 full year after having graduated, the feedback that I would get is oh, there's something, even though you're, a youngster who's still in school or just out of school, just like anybody else that's graduated from any other school in the country, there is something different about you. There's a polish, that's the word I was looking for. In addition to professionalism, there was a polish. It's kind of an intangible thing, I think, but it's something that I think Belmont is really good about giving to their students of any major, especially the arts majors. So that would probably be the biggest thing, is a professionalism and a polish, and what kind of attitude to approach the work with, which is, of course, one of excellence.
I agree. I often receive that feedback as well. Belmont really sets you up to be professional and to be confident in your craft. So you have talked about your move to LA, and you are originally from Nashville, Tennessee. Mm-hmm. Talk about what led you to LA, and how did that go over with your parents?
That's a good question. So yeah, born and raised in Nashville, ended up going to Belmont, which is there in Nashville, doing the film program. And when I graduated, I got connected through a Belmont alum, of course, to a talk show that was shooting. You mentioned it in the intro. That was very kind. That was shot in Nashville, Pickler Ben, and did that show for a year, and then the daytime television space, I've learned over time, is incredibly interconnected. And so when that show was ending, at the end of that first year that I worked out of school, many people were kind of splitting off to go to different shows around the country. Some of them were going to the Kelly Clarkson Show. And so I reached out to an executive producer of mine at Pickler and said, hey, do you just know of anything at all? I actually wasn't even thinking about Kelly. I think I'd heard that the pilot was being shot, but I certainly wasn't thinking about, heading out there. So I reached out, but yet I knew I wanted to move to Los Angeles. And this will come around in the answer to the second half of the question about what do my parents think. So I knew I wanted to move to LA. So I reached out to my executive producer and said, hey, do you know of anything in LA? She said, oh yeah, actually they're doing the Kelly Clarkson Show. They're looking for people kind of in your level, your position. Would you want to go? I said, that would be great. So so that's how I was able to do that, was a direct connection there, which I was grateful to the Lord about. And so that's how I moved in July of 2019 from Nashville to LA. And worked on Kelly for its first 4 years while it shot in LA. That show has since moved on to New York City. But to go back around to what did my parents think, because to answer that 5-year-old question, I wanted to be an actress, and then I shifted to wanting to do film and television. This is something my parents have always known I wanted to pursue. And in fact, really the only reason, I've said this to a lot of Belmont families, the only reason I did not end up applying to a USC or an NYU or something like that for college was because Belmont just so happened to be starting a film program at the moment I was entering college. So I figured this makes sense. And, I knew I was going to have the opportunity to intern in Los Angeles while I was still a student, which did happen. And we were going to have state-of-the-art equipment, which did happen. So I was like, LA will be there. So especially after having stayed in Nashville for school, but having done an internship one summer in LA for a couple of months, they got a taste, my family did, of me being away for a while, and they'd always known all my life that LA, New York, that was a pursuit of mine. So when I said, hey, the people that I just worked with at one show just connected me to this other show in LA, they were obviously sad to see me go, but they were ready and knew that that was on the docket for me.
If I'm not mistaken, you were technically the first Black woman to graduate from Belmont's film program.
I think that is correct. Yeah, it was a new program. My class that graduated in 2018, we were the first ones to graduate who had started the program as freshmen. Everyone else who graduated would have been 2016 or 17 before us were people who transferred in from other majors who were already students. Because of that, yeah, I think I was.
Yes, historical figure. We love to see it. So what was the culture shock? Because you were from the South and then you moved out west. Did you have a culture shock?
That's a good question. Culturally, I was mostly okay. I was pleased to see that there's a lot of diversity in Los Angeles, which is something I've always loved. The biggest change for me was just the driving, because having grown up in Nashville at it's changed now because it's gotten so popular, but it's a navigable city. In 20 minutes, you can get from point A to point B
Right.
just about everywhere in the city. In LA, not so. A little bit in the COVID years because, things were shut down. But the first year I moved out here was 8 or 9 months before COVID. And then, of course, we've kind of been out of that season for the last couple of years. The whole, getting from any point A to point B could be 45 minutes like it's nothing. That was a shift for me. And anytime people ask me that, I'm like, honestly, that was my biggest culture shift, is the driving. But yet, hallelujah, thank you, Jesus, that I have a car to drive. So
Come on, somebody.
We say thank you, Lord, for that.
Yes, exactly. Do you have an idea for a business, but bringing it to fruition seems so overwhelming? Look no further. Embolden Consulting is a strategy and creative consulting agency that turns bold ideas into thriving ventures. When rebranding my podcast, PHAE'S Place, I needed direction and someone who gets it, who gets me. I tried Embolden Consulting and was not disappointed. The results I received showed that there was close attention to detail and gave me insight of what I needed to make my business work. You have the vision. Let Embolden Consulting help you execute the dream. Their services include strategic messaging and branding development, operational strategy, project management, and marketing campaign design. Email Jody Iyamu at emboldenconsulting.com. That's JODIIYAMU at emboldenconsulting.com to set up your consultation today. Use the code PHAE'S Place to receive a free consultation. So walk us through your life on television, on the set of television. Is it 7 days a week? Is it from 9 to 5? How does your days look on set?
Yeah, it's funny because, like I said, COVID cut into more than the middle. It was probably 3/4 of my experience on the show was during COVID, so that changed everything. But I'll talk a little bit about the first year and the last year, where it was before COVID and when COVID was beginning to ease up a little bit. Film, TV, all of that is a very time-consuming industry, as you know. Definitely daily hours are a little bit longer than 9 to 5. And it's different from television to film and stuff as well. Film sets pretty much routinely have a set minimum 12 hours a day, sometimes longer. But you're not working 12 hours a day 365 days in a year. It'll be a 20-day shoot, a 30-day shooter. And this is even big feature films. Even a big fancy technical feature film, maybe they shoot for 60 days total. That's spread out over the course of 3 or 4 months or something like that. On a TV show, it's different from scripted to not. I'm in daytime, so it's not like a narrative show. But we were there in the office Monday through Friday. A little bit, definitely starting at 9, not quite ending at 5, a little bit later than 5 most days. There were days where you would just kind of be in the office prepping stuff, and then there were days when we were actually taping the episodes. Most shows, whether they're truly live or they're kind of taping and then they're going to edit a little bit and air later, they'll shoot either 1 or 2, sometimes 3 episodes a day. That's kind of pushing it. Most 2. So that's what we did. It was definitely an all hands, all day kind of thing. Not too many weekends. It would have to be a strange circumstance for there to be a weekend.
Do you have PTO, or how does that work? How similar is it to it?
I mean, especially because, when I was on that show, it's through NBC Universal, which is a huge company, and they're NBC, I have to say, is a really great employer. So you get everything, you get insurance and benefits and PTO and all that stuff. And then too, the thing with a talk show a lot of times, as is the case with just about any show, it's seasonal. So it ends up feeling a lot like school, actually, where you'll go in the fall and you'll do what you do, and then maybe you have sort of holiday time off. You'll come back in the spring and do some more, and then you have the summer off. So I felt like I was on a school schedule still for my first like 5 years out of college, working in daytime, which wasn't bad, So even if there were, there was a month where it's like, wow, I've worked a lot of long hours every day this month. You knew you were gonna have 2 months in the summer off completely. Or if you want to work on another project or vacation or go visit your family or just sit on your couch or whatever, you could do that at your leisure.
I think that's one of the things that I love about the entertainment industry. And like you said, school has that schedule. But like when you do shows 3 months, and then you're done. And that's why working remote, I think, has been so good for me, because I'm just used to that. Like, I don't got to be there every day, all day long.
yeah, that changed the flow up for me as well when we switched things to remote through COVID. So like by the last year, I feel like it was the best setup, which was I was used to being from home for a couple years at that point. I had my flow, but I would be at home. Because the other thing too is you're working on a TV show, so you want the glitz and the glam of the lights, the camera, and the action. That's why you moved to California. It's not to be doing
right
with your laptop and your kitchen table. So I would do most of my work from home, but then there got to be a certain point toward the end where we could go in once or twice a week on the day that your particular team, we kind of broke it up into teams, was taping your episode. So you always knew there was going to be at least 1, maybe 2 days a week where you could get up, get dressed, come into the office, be around the lights and the cameras, and then everything else you had to do, you could just kind of do from your home in your sweatshirt. So that actually ended up being a not too bad balance.
Yeah, I love that. Now that you're in this career, what has been the most surprising factor that you didn't expect?
Okay. I couldn't have told you what it was 2 years ago because I haven't experienced yet, but I can tell you now. The freelance gig economy nature of entertainment, which, I had always been told in my life, in school, but I was blessed and fortunate for my first 5 years out of college directly working in the entertainment industry was on talk shows. One was this big LA talk show, like I said, backed by NBC and everything. So I came right out of school, right into the entertainment industry with a full-time job, benefits, this, that, the third. That is not common. That was a real blessing. The majority of film and television work, all the way up to the greats, is gig work. It's this project, then it's that one, then it's this one, then it's that one. Especially as time goes on, television shows that used to last 10 and 15 and 20 seasons, that's never gonna happen again because the entire entertainment and media landscape has drastically changed. So where you could kind of get on a show when you were 23 at one level and go and be on it till you were 45 and put your kids through college working on the same TV show, you know what I mean? You can't do that anymore. And most people, especially of course actors, again, you'll know this, like they live their life bouncing from one thing to one thing, because obviously a movie only lasts as long as it lasts, you knew that, but even TV now, the big prestige shows that win all the Emmys and stuff, it's a miniseries, it's finished after the 4th season, there's not any of this, how many shows get to 100 episodes even anymore? So yeah, in the last couple of years since that show moved to New York, I wanted to stay in LA, so I have begun freelancing, and I've been doing a little bit of talk show stuff, some documentary stuff, which I've enjoyed, but it's different, stability, security. These are words that we have to find those things in Jesus.
Come on, somebody.
It's harder to find them in the work opportunities, but yet God provides, and for that I'm grateful. So yeah, that has definitely been the biggest surprise, the biggest learning curve for me in these last couple of years is how do I transition every element of my life, the way that I get jobs, how I work, how I schedule my time, my budgeting, my saving, everything. How do I rearrange that to align with sometimes you're working, sometimes you're not, freelance gig economy thing? That's been my biggest lesson for sure.
Oh, that's amazing. And when you say that, I think about Keke Palmer. You know, her nickname is Keke
Kiki
Keep a Bag.
Palmer. I
Yes.
love Kiki Palmer.
And you really do see the quote unquote hustle culture that requires of actors and people who are out there in front of the camera all the time. I mean, there are long days and they still have families. They're still human beings and they have to take care of themselves. So
Same
I
with the
think,
behind the camera.
yeah, right. And same as people behind the camera. So I'm so glad that you brought that point up. That was the thing that kind of got me when I was working in corporate. I was like, oh my God, people do this for 20 years every day.
I know, yeah. It's interesting because on one hand, especially like if you're working in film and television and arts and entertainment, chances are you're probably a creative kind of person. So there
Right.
is a positive side to kind of constantly feeling like you're going to be doing something different, a little bit here, a little bit there each day. But yet there is something to be said for,
Stability.
if I'm doing the same thing every day for 20 years, and am I not getting the same check in Jesus' name? So I can see, I can see where the value of that is there.
Oh yeah, most definitely. Like we praise God for corporate stability, but
Yes.
as a creative, it is a
Yeah.
hard pill to swallow.
Yeah.
So being a producer, whether it's an assistant or associate, that's a job people kind of know about. But you have the privilege to work even as a clearance coordinator. And that's a job that people don't really know too much about, or they probably don't think about that when they think about the television industry. How is the training process? When you were going out for that job, I know you read the description, but did you know that that job existed? Were they
Yeah.
expecting you to know everything, or did they train you?
That's a great question. So the way that I got the clearance job that I did a few months ago, and that I'm actually doing another one now, is through connections. By the way, just fun fact: any job, me personally, I have never gotten a job off of just like a blank apply ever in my life, and I have blank applied to a lot of stuff. Please forget it. I may as well have not even sent anything in. I don't know what it is.
Favor.
But like connections, that's the only way I've ever gotten any job. Anything that has ever paid me any money in my life has come through a connection. So yes, I was aware of the role of clearance coordinator because that's a role we had at Kelly. That's going to be a role on any show, and what a clearance coordinator does, what a clearance supervisor, the clearance team, they're typically associated with the legal team, and they are in charge of ensuring that every photo, video, personal intellectual property that may show up on a sweatshirt or as a character that's represented from something, music, that all of those things are cleared, meaning that we've confirmed whoever owns this material, whoever owns the rights to this material, they have been appropriately informed that it's being used, that they have approved its use. So a lot of times it is about sending and receiving materials releases. In the music space, it can be, which I don't do the music side of it, but it can be about, confirming and negotiating, music clearance fees, because clearing music can be very expensive. Sometimes it's about informing producers, hey, I know you want to show X, Y, or Z, but actually it would cost this much money to clear it, or there's major legal restrictions. I don't even have as much expertise in the space as like a clearance supervisor would. As a coordinator, I'm basically reporting to that person and helping them keep organized. Here's everything that we're gonna show in this episode or whatever. Here's what's been appropriately cleared. Here's what hadn't been yet. Here's what they're gonna swap out. So that's been and I've only done that in kind of 2 or 3 elements before, but I knew that that was something that existed because I would, on the producer side, I would be the one asking the clearance team, hey, can we show this? Can I get a release for that? So I knew on that side how things work. So then some of my colleagues reached out to me who did clearance and said, hey, I know of some clearance opportunities. I don't know if that's what you're wanting to do. I know the industry's tight right now. I'm sure you could do it even if you haven't officially done it before. So when I started doing that, it there was a little bit of a training process just to kind of learn, because different shows are different. So learning kind of what were the rules for that show and what was the system for that show. But after a while, it just gets to be Excel spreadsheets and PDFs and, just keeping things organized, which is something that I am just a very naturally organized person. So I was able to do.
Well, that's good to know that there is training. Was there also training when you were in production, or do they just expect you to know stuff?
It's funny, like, to get into the place, you have to know, I don't know, a little bit of stuff. Basically, like, what they would have assumed you maybe learned in college or if you went through some sort of training program. But, like any job, literally in any industry, and including in entertainment and television, they're going to teach you the bulk of it on the job. And certainly when I worked at Kelly, especially because we began the season at season 1. So there was no Kelly Clarkson Show until we all came together and made it beyond the pilot. So we were very much, you had to know something. But a lot of it goes back to what I said you get from Belmont, that professionalism, that polish, the kinds of intangible things that you would need to know going anywhere, doing anything. And then from there, they're able to teach you the ins and outs of the show specifically.
Oof, that makes me feel better.
Yeah.
There's hope. Majority of your jobs have centered around research. So do you have a special secret about how to build those skills that you can share? We don't want you to get in trouble.
Great question. No, this is something I can talk about. This is a great question. Just keep in mind, any and all researching and things I was doing is pre-ChatGPT or any of that. And, obviously people have different feelings about artificial intelligence. I'm not going to get on a soapbox about that. But I think there's something to be said for non-artificial intelligence, for just good old flat brain processing power. So I lean toward that. So with that being said, the way that I would approach things, it would depend. I like to kind of just get after the whole thing. I'm an information person. I've in fact sometimes had to decrease my information consumption because it can get out of hand. I like knowledge. I like learning. Most of the stuff that I watch, if it's not Abbott Elementary or that I'm listening to,
but that's still about education, though. It's still about education.
Exactly. But most of anything that I consume is going to be some sort of information or news gathering something. I just like to know stuff. When I'm tasked with some sort of research role, I don't know, maybe I overdo it. I mean, I don't know, but I just begin to dive deep. And so using the internet, physical books when possible. I've done a couple projects that have involved reading physical books and taking notes that way. One of the biggest things that I've gotten from doing research is you'll read an article or you'll read a book. Then when you go to the references for that article or that book, then the 2 of the 5 references that they use, you go and read that whole thing. And then that becomes one of your references. And just going back and back and back as close as you can to the original source material of something. I love to corroborate information. So if I saw it in article A, can I find that in 5 other articles just so I can triple confirm? And if it's about, let's say it's like about a celebrity, like on a talk show, for example, we would do research memos when celebrities were coming on. So we would be researching them online, but a celebrity, just like we talked about with Keke Palmer, that's a human being person living their life, even just because they're famous, So if I saw on funfactsaboutphaedra.com, that she was from New York, I would see that and go, okay, but then I would go to your Instagram. And I would scroll as far down as I can. I'm like, can I confirm that she's from New York? And so that's how I like to approach my research in that ways. Any little factoid that I found, and you don't get everything perfect, of course, but you try to be, as diligent as possible. I would always like to make sure I could see that in 2 or 3 different places. And the place I loved to look the most when it came to a real person's life was their own page, just so I can triple confirm. Like Wikipedia may say their child is 8, but I could go on Instagram and see, oh, actually they just turned 7 or they just turned 9, so I just little things like that, double checking.
I always remember you being so thorough, and that's why all the jobs you have, you've been connected. It was through connections because you're just amazing. You are amazing. Is there a time frame that you have for this research?
Big question. So it totally depends. So when we On the talk show, things can move fast. This is not just my show, this is anywhere. Things can move fast. So sometimes you'd have maybe a week to put together, and it's not huge. I mean, it's decent amount of research, but it's not anything crazy.
Right.
Sometimes you may only have a day or two, just depending on when that person's segment was booked versus when it's gonna air and tape and all. And yet, kind of no matter how much time you have, you still are responsible for doing as diligent, of a research job as you can. There was another project I did, a much bigger research project for which I can't talk about as much, but that was nice because it was a set I had confirmed when I signed the contract, like 2 months, to put together a very, very big research project. I read a lot of books, I did a lot of stuff. I knew exactly how much time I had, and not only that, there was okay, by week 3, you should kind of have this much done, by week 6, you should have that much done, but I could kind of go at my own pace for that one.
Hi friends, it's Phaedra, and you are listening to PHAE'S Place. Join us each week as we talk to industry insiders about their journey and what it takes to turn dreams into a reality. Whether you aspire to be in the entertainment field or just inspired by the hustle, count this as your backstage pass. Join us every Monday for a brand new episode. And also follow us on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook at PHAE'S Place. So you recently picked up another skill. You taught yourself guitar, and you've been writing and performing your own songs. What was your process behind that new endeavor?
Yeah, I'm glad you're asking about this. This is so funny. It's been interesting. Right before, maybe a year and a half before Kelly would have moved the show, I started just coming up with little, melodies and lines and stuff, and I'm a voice memos girl. I have over 1,000, getting close to 2,000 voice memos in my phone, and many of them are labeled and they're put in folders I don't play. And some of them are 3 harmonies to the same song, and they're each 30 seconds long, but still. And just putting them in my phone, and something just came over me. Maybe it was the Lord, I don't know, but it was you need to get some instruments in your hand, now, because you have songs that are trying to come out of, they were literally felt like they were trying to come out of my body. I'm okay. I remember I got on Instagram, because I didn't want to get some big fancy equipment and stuff that I didn't even know how to use yet. So I was does anyone have a used guitar and or a used synthesizer keyboard that they would sell me for $100 or less each? I was just give me something you were about to throw away that I can learn on. And so a friend got me a guitar, and I went to Guitar Center and got myself a little keyboard, and I got the guitar in July of 2021. I got the keyboard a little bit later, maybe February of 22. And I had grown up doing piano lessons a little bit, but fell off of it by age 12. But I'd always loved music. My younger brother is a musician. He sings and writes and performs and has been in bands and has 2 or 3 records out and all that stuff. So there was a part of me that was well, music is my brother's space, and I'm entertainment, and my other brother is sports. I felt like it was a lane I couldn't go into or something, but I think I was also just so busy, and so after, the film and TV of it all, it just hadn't crossed my mind. But suddenly, like I said, about 2021, something just came over me and was get some instruments, because songs are trying to come out of you. So I'm okay. So then from July of 2021 through probably about, I'd say March, April of 2023, I was just kind of fiddling around with the guitar, teaching myself. So a year and a half, just getting a little bit further than I was, but slow progress, and began to write songs very slowly, because I can hear everything. I can hear every harmony part and all the instruments and everything. I do have an ear, but then to try to get that out.
Well, you were over the BSA choir. I just want everybody to know, because you were chaplain before me.
That's true. Yeah, I did direct the choir one year. That was very fun. I mean, my mom grew up singing the choir. My dad was a drummer. Again, one of my brothers is a musician. My other brother mostly plays sports, also drums. So there's music in the house. My baby sister sings and performs and does stuff. So there's music in the house. Some kind of way I developed an ear. We have great music at my church in Nashville, of course, born again church. So maybe it was just being around that. But yet I did not have the proficiency at all to get out what I was hearing. So I would literally, I could hear the chord in my mind for what needed to be played, and I would have the guitar, and I would be da da da, and humming it, trying to pluck and find da da da, until finally I found it. I was like, Lord, this is just yet another G chord. I just put a G chord in the last song and had to do this process that time. So it used to be painstaking, like to write songs. After a while, I finally gathered, like I said, about April 2013, March, April 2013, I finally gathered enough, like, okay, G chord, C chord, D chord, A. Like, I could play a few basic chords. I had a little bit more understanding, and then I had a friend who worked with me at Kelly Clarkson, actually. She and I started trying to write songs together, and we would because she had played for many more years than I had, and we would get together at her house and practice. So then here's where the real shift occurred. I'm telling this story so long, I'm sorry. But the real shift occurred once the show moved to New York and I began freelancing. So that's now been like 2.5 years ago, like May, June 2023. So thus I had an abundance of time, amen, that I'd not had before from not always having a job. So I just began to write. And in the last couple of years now, I'm still really working on my guitar proficiency. I've been playing for 4 years now, but that's been teaching myself. I just finally got in some lessons about a month ago, and so I'm thrilled to increase.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, I'm very excited about that. Of what I've been able to do with my own little self and YouTube and stuff, I've written. They've not been put together in albums or anything. I haven't gotten in the recording process yet, but I've written probably 2 albums worth of complete songs and have
love it
over 100 like in progress. Maybe it's a chorus, maybe it's a verse, maybe melodies, lyrics. I've got all kind of stuff. So yeah, it's been a development and it kind of snuck up on me, but I feel like it's one of the first times in my life I ever had a hobby, something that no one is telling me or making me do. I'm not being paid. I just want to do it, and I have things to say. I think because I've lived now 29 years.
Praise
when
God.
I started writing, I was like 26, and I had things to say. And so, yeah, thanks for asking about that. It has been fun.
You're welcome. And what has this process taught you now that you're looking at it?
That I had a voice that I didn't know that I had. My music is
good.
It's like folk. It's like folk and Americana. Mm-hmm. Both a voice, like literally vocally. I'm a tenor, which I didn't realize till I was about 17. Mm-hmm. And then I didn't begin to kind of really explore that until I was like 26, 27 writing. I had things to say that I think I'd always thought they were going to come out in like a film or TV script. But in all this downtime that I've had, I'm not going to say not a single script idea has come to me. They have, but fleshing them out is not what's happened. But all these songs have come out. So I'm like, that's interesting. I don't see myself trying to become a music artist or anything like that because I just feel so far behind people who have been playing music since they were like 15, which just about any musician that you like, that's the case. Whether they became famous at 15 or 35, they all started young. Whereas me, not starting until my frontal lobe was fully formed. I feel behind, but yet, God can use anything. I don't know.
That's right. I mean, because Ava DuVernay, I think she started when she was in her 40s. She
started filmmaking at age 33.
Wow.
And she had been doing like law. Law was her major in school, and then she shifted into PR, and she was doing PR for her own company for films. And the more film sets she visited, the more she was like, actually, I think I'd like to be doing the filmmaking part. So yeah, she was, I think, 33 making that transition.
I did get a chance to see Melvin again. Yes. So tell the listening audience about Melvin and the inspiration behind that.
Yeah, wow, that's so funny that you watched that. Melvin was my senior capstone film at Belmont, as is the case for many film college programs. They will have you put together a capstone film project, and for me wanting to go into writing and directing, I wrote and directed mine. So I wanted it to be longer. I think my script was 13 or 14 pages, which would have been a roughly 13 to 14 page movie. I shot probably 10 or 12 pages of material, and then a couple scenes got cut and things got changed, and so the final movie is only like 6 or 7 minutes long. It's called Melvin. It was a bit of a heart song, really. We talked a little bit at the beginning about being in Black Student Association at school, and how much value we got out of that and how seriously we took it because we were the minority on our campus. And so every time I go back to that movie and I think about it, I realize, I'm like, oh, this was my summation to an extent. It's dramatized, of course, of my college experience, but I don't know if I want to spoil it, quote unquote.
No, don't spoil it. I will put the link in the show notes if that's okay with you, and people can go ahead and look at it because it's wonderful. Great show.
I look back at it and I'm like, obviously it's a student film, but I'm proud of the work that my fellow students did on it to support me in that vision, and we were all learning together.
It's very professional, I would say.
Do you think so? Okay, well, I'll take your word for that then. I was pleased with and proud of the fact that the message that I wanted to get across did get across, because when we did like kind of the big screening of the films at the end of the year, it's funny, a lot of my colleagues, who are all like my friends, my peers in class, they were struggling to understand the story I was trying to tell on the page. And even in the edit for weeks, part of the class was we'd bring in drafts of the script and then we'd bring in drafts of the edit for weeks in a row. And everyone just said they felt like they couldn't quite understand the story. And I understood why. But then when they, for some reason, at the end, when they saw it all done and together, I mean, people were coming to me in tears. They were like, I get what all you've been trying to say now. I'm like, okay, that made me feel good that like,
they saw themselves. No, let me stop.
No, hopefully they didn't see themselves, but hopefully they saw me. Ironically, even with the concept of kind of invisibility, which is all I'll say, that in reference, hopefully they saw me, and I think that they did, or saw my heart. So that made me feel good that, like, you know, for however polished or not it does or doesn't look, that what I was trying to communicate, I think, does come across.
And that's the goal. So you did accomplish that. So what are you currently dreaming up now?
Oh, wow. I'm in a phase now. I just turned 29, so I'll be 30 in like, I don't know, 340 something days or something.
Congrats.
I'm counting it by the days. I'm to the point now where I just want to be used of God. Wherever he wants me, however he what he wants me to be saying, doing. And again, because the industry has been kind of up, kind of down, I've been freelancing now the last couple of years, and I have a better hang of freelance now than I did in the beginning. I'm at a point now where I don't really ever know exactly what's next. I know what I could kind of be shooting for, but I'm in a space of, not as in not working toward anything, but just really trying to avail myself to where does the Lord want me to be today, this week, next year, next month. So that's what I'm looking forward to most. And even my parents celebrated their 30th wedding anniversary, and so I was looking for, someone at my church had started talking to me about numbers in the Bible, and so that had just been kind of a background awareness. So I said, let me look up what does 30 mean in the Bible so I can text mommy and daddy something nice for their anniversary. And so when I looked it up, it didn't have too much to do with marriages necessarily. Everything that I saw, and again, of course, I did like I like to do and corroborated and looked at several different sources. Everything that I saw was like 30 is the number of like beginning your ministry, like Jesus and Moses and Joseph and this one and that one, and there were a couple other meanings, but that was the overarching theme. Like 30 is the beginning of a new ministry. I said, okay. I was trying to text my parents something, but I did just turn 29, meaning I'm entering into this.
That means they got more work to do. That's what that means. More work to do.
Yeah, I don't know. And that doesn't mean I'm trying to pull away from entertainment or anything. I mean, quite the opposite, because I think God can and does use this space. But I'm to the point now where I'm like, Lord, you know, what I might sign up to do next, is that what you would have me doing? If not, I don't even want to fool with it. You put me where you want me, and that's what I'm gonna do.
God answers prayers. And there's so many different, ventures in entertainment. So you started off in film, and now you're performing your songs that you created. So there's no limit with God, and that's what I love about it. But I just want to say thank you, Kayla, for just always being just a great support. You don't only say stuff, but you show it through your actions, especially with me getting my master's degree, especially being with, thank you, and BSA, even with my podcast. So I really do appreciate that. I love you much. And you are invited to come by PHAE'S Place anytime.
Oh, thank you. Well, hopefully your listeners are aware of really just how excellent you are. I mean, anything that you'd ask of me, of course, I'm there. Like,
Thank you.
when we were in school, since we've been out of school, just to see you continuing to pursue your own passions, your own artistic visions, and using the many, many, many gifts and talents. I hope your listeners know that you can sing, that you can act, that you can write, that you can produce, that you can work in corporate. Clearly, you're doing a podcast. So yeah, I'm honored to know you and to call you a friend and to be connected to you.
Thank you. How can people follow you and keep up with all the things Kayla is doing?
I mean, if people want to follow me on IG, they can. I'm never doing anything crazy on there, but Kayla, Kayla_E_Young, YOUNG. So that's me on Instagram.
All right, key to success. I like that. KEY. And I love you all for listening. This podcast episode was recorded with Riverside.